All right, welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining today's webinar. Um, we are going to wait a few minutes for a few more folks to join, and then we'll go ahead and get started shortly. Right, I see some people, lots of people joining. Great to see. We're excited to have you all here and very grateful to have also multiple college partner representatives of our Questbridge College partners. So super excited for you guys to hear from them today. So I think I might just go ahead and have us get started and jump right in. So yeah, hello everyone, and thank you for joining the second installment of one of our favorite series, our Meet Our Colleges webinars. So today we'll specifically be talking about community engagement with some of our college partners. My name is Avery Harwood, and I'm a program associate at Questbridge, and I'm super excited to be talking to all three of our college partner representatives today. Before we get started though, I just want to remind our attendees that you can use the Q&A function on Zoom at the bottom of your screens to ask questions specifically for our panelists. Feel free to also use the upvoting function. So if there are any questions that you want to have answered, that you see that you also want answered. And then in this session, just want to say that we encourage you to aim your questions to our college partners present here today. So any questions that may come up that are about the National College Match application process itself will be dismissed in the Q&A, and we'll just redirect you to send those questions to us at questions@questbridge.org. I'm going to have my colleague Selena add the email in the chat. Questions@questbridge.org is where you can send any specific application questions, but definitely use the Q&A box to ask questions of our college partner representatives here today. So this session will be recorded and shared on our YouTube page as well. All right, so today we are joined by Kevin Fanner, Cassidy Mills, and Adriana Bustos. So I'm going to have each of you introduce yourself by sharing your name, your role, your college, and where it's located, and anything else about yourself that may help our students get to know you. So Kevin, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Fanor, currently the Director of Enrollment, Partnerships, and Access at Colby College. We are located in Waterville, Maine. And I will just share, I guess, a fun fact. We were one of the first colleges in New England to accept women in the early 1800s. And I'll pass it along to Cassidy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cassidy Mills. I am an assistant director at Duke University in undergraduate admissions. I'm so excited to be here with you all tonight. I am the Questbridge lead at Duke, so if you have specific questions about our process at Duke University, I'm happy to answer that. Duke is located in Durham, North Carolina. It's a wonderful place to be, and we are located about 2.5 hours from the beach and 2.5 hours of from the mountains, and students definitely take advantage of both of those.
And nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Adriana Bustos. My pronouns are she, her, ella, and with a recent title change, I'm a senior assistant dean and visit coordinator in the Office of Admissions at Pomona College. A fun fact about me is that I applied for Questbridge about 13 years ago, aging myself a little bit, and I became a semifinalist, did not actually get selected as a finalist, and yet was able to go to a great college, right, and still succeed. And so I like to use that as a bit of inspiration that regardless of what happens with the match process, you will move on to great things. Pomona College specifically is located in the city of Claremont, about 35 miles east of Los Angeles. And I'm excited to get started with today's session focused on civic engagement and community engagement.
Awesome. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. All of your colleges locations have dear places to my heart. I've lived in all three of your states, so very excited to chat with you guys. So my first question that I have for you all, so we have some prepared questions and then we'll go through questions from our attendees at the end. So my first question is, most institutions, most colleges have various opportunities for community service and civic engagement. So I'm curious to hear, what does community service or civic engagement look like on each of your campuses? So Adriana, I'm just going to kick it back to you to have you start.
Of course. So at Pomona, we have the Draper Center for Community Partnerships. This is a center on Pomona's campus that is available to 5C students, so students at Scripps, Claremont McKenna, Harvey Mudd, and Pitzer, and that's part of what I'll advertise as the benefit of coming to a school in the Claremont Consortium. But the Draper Center really is committed to fostering mutually beneficial relationships between the community members, students, faculty, and staff in order to support educational outreach initiatives, community-based research, and community engagement. And so with that, right, whether it's influencing the curriculum and partnering with faculty members to ensure that there may be some practicum-based approaches in community partnership courses, or through service projects such as our ESL Plus program, where students tutor staff members who may work in the dining halls or in facilities in order for them to improve their English proficiency in speaking, writing, and computer literacy skills as well, or simply cultivating community among our students with a program such as Sista to Sista, which encourages unconditional sisterhood and growth. And embraces conversation and discussion from an asset-based perspective about what it's like to be a Black woman in American society. And so I think that really encapsulates the work that our community engagement office does here at Pomona.
Yeah, those are some awesome, really helpful examples to kind of imagine what it looks like at Pomona. Cassidy, I'm curious what you might have to share about Duke's opportunities.
Yeah.
I think
Sorry, I
yes.
realized I was muted still. At Duke, we have a civic engagement office, which supports the university's collaborations with communities on creating social change. So students, faculty members, and staff members all work together to make a difference in the civic life of the different communities in and around Durham. And so the Civic Engagement Office has really worked alongside Duke city officials to determine 5 different priorities. And those priorities include food nutrition, housing affordability, early childhood education, and college readiness, as well as nonprofit work. And so, for example, maybe a student might decide that they want to volunteer at the Duke campus farm, which is located within the Duke forest. And then you would help provide food sustainability practices, maybe within the local Durham community. Or maybe you would decide to volunteer at the Emily K Center. And I can talk about that more later on, which the Emily K Center assists students with tutoring efforts who belong to local Durham K through 12 schools. So really the Civic Engagement Office is like a hub for getting you connected with so many other areas of being involved within the community outside of Duke and at Durham in Duke. So yeah.
Awesome. Kevin, open up the floor to you.
Wonderful, thank you. Our Office for Civic Engagement and Community Partnership, always want to say public partnership, not the case, is separated into 3 different pillars. We organized it this way to ensure that our students were able to build deeper, more meaningful connections, and also finding more impactful ways to engage with the community. We have between 50 and 70 partnerships on any given year. And these partnerships range from civic inquiry, in which students are participating in research with faculty members. They are contributing to local classrooms and also doing civic engagement through their classwork. We have public action, in which students are able to organize events like Colby Votes, ensuring that all our students on campus are aware of their voting rights while they are attending our college, service Saturdays, and other opportunities to engage with faculty, staff, in giving back to the immediate community, as well as community leadership. The community leadership aspect allows students to step into different fellowship and civic engagement opportunities to lead various projects within local middle schools, as well as options like creating their own clubs, one being the coding club at a local high school in which they didn't have any instructors or equipment, and Colby students actually led that charge in getting donations and running that program. So that's just a high overview of some of the things that our students are involved in and the main pillars that kind of drive the work.
Great. Yeah, these are all such awesome examples of partnerships with the community at all of your colleges. So that's really great to hear. Um, so it's definitely clear that the opportunities for students to participate in some form of community service are abundant at each of your colleges. And I know some of you have already thrown out some examples, but I was just curious if there's one that has stood out to you in your time at your institution and maybe what kind of impact it might have had on the campus. If anyone has an answer that comes to mind, feel free to just jump in.
We can go in reverse order. I'm happy to go first. One of the first things that comes to mind for me is Colby Cares About Kids. It is an organization that was started through civic engagement within a classroom. It was an English course that incorporated the opportunity for students to work with local middle school students. And this was such a popular course during our Jan plan and during our spring and fall semesters that it needed to kind of live its own life separate from that course. And right now we partner with 13 different schools in the surrounding communities, which match students one-to-one with a middle school student. That we have currently 300 students that are involved in this program, Colby students that are involved in this program. Some have more than one mentee, but these relationships have been very impactful, not only to the Colby students in ensuring that they have deeper, more meaningful connections with their surrounding communities, but also for those middle school students who are navigating new spaces and social interactions and better understanding themselves within those spaces. And the Colby students have really supported them having those conversations and ensuring that they have someone to lean on in those difficult times of middle school. Middle school students have not gotten any nicer. They are quite mean and very direct in the way that they approach things. So I think having a mentee assisting them to kind of navigate some of those interactions has been really impactful, so much so that our Colby students have come back after they've graduated to attend the middle school graduations of those young people. So those relationships have kind of cross state lines and many other boundaries. And I know quite a few of our students are still pen pals with a majority of those middle school students. So that's one that really stands out to me and I think has been quite impactful. And to go along with that, our athletes also have supported middle school recess times. We call it Mules Move. We are the Gray Mules. So they are working with middle school students during their recess to ensure that they're making the most of that active time, ensuring that they're moving around, doing different activities and games and engaging in ways that will reset them and prepare them for the rest of their school day. So those are a few that really stand out.
I love hearing about that, Kevin. I'm happy to go next and talk about an opportunity at Duke that I think is really great. And that program is called Duke Engage. So about 25% of our student body participates in Duke Engage. And it's fully funded service learning projects that exist really on a global scale outside of Durham as well. And so we've built these long-standing relationships with partners, like I said, all over the world, and students get to participate in 8-week summer learning opportunities to be a part of those projects. One of my favorite ones is Duke Engage Ghana, and those students and faculty members have been working in Ghana to educate the public on some of the harmful motor oil industry and impacts. And so they do environmental cleanups, they go into hospitals and volunteer there as well to help with like the detrimental health of impacts that some of the motor oil industry has been a part of. And so you can go to the Duke Engage website and see even some of the projects that were completed just this summer and some of the ongoing efforts that students are looking forward to in this next summer, which I think is really exciting. And the really exciting part about Duke Engage is seeing what students bring back to our campus from their experience and how they've been impacted by those. So how a student might choose to add on a minor or be inspired to do some sort of research related to their Duke Engage experience. Just yesterday, I was actually in the dining hall and a student had just gotten back from Boston and they were engaged with a program that was working at the Community Arts Center in Cambridge. And so the student was showing me like all these photos, and I could tell they were lighting up and just like super passionate, excited to tell me about this. And I felt passionate, equally passionate for them, right? And so now the student is thinking about taking on a child policy minor within the psychology department and education department. So I just thought that that was really exciting and truly speaks to how impactful that Duke Engage can be to our campus.
Yeah, on a very similar wavelength, right? I think the idea here is that at Pomona and Duke and Colby, it is students' passions that really inspire the projects that are funded on our campuses. And so at Pomona specifically, one that comes to mind is our Hunger and Houselessness Initiative or Food Recovery Network, where students work with the dining halls on campus to distribute leftover food to communities of need or to community partners who work with folks that are unhoused. And so really I can think to a former student who graduated 2019, Sophie Rowe, who was one of the coordinators of the program, and then went on to that following summer to intern at Boston Healthcare in their homeless program. So as a student, right, finding a passion for food justice, for sustainability, for healthcare, and finding ways to blend those different interests and thinking about the intersection of homelessness and individuals' health really inspired her to go in the direction that she has gone in. So these opportunities are one to cultivate new passions, but deepen those that exist and find ways to see how they might connect. So that's one example. And I know we'll touch on those partnerships in the conversation to come, but there are other great programs at Pomona I'd love to highlight.
Yeah, I love to hear the kind of the ways that the community engagement really shows up in the classroom and informs students' academic interest as well. So yeah, Adriana, that was a great segue to our next question, which is what are some kinds of, and I know some of you may have already mentioned them, but what kind of connections or unique partnerships exist between the surrounding community and your institution, whether that's, like I said, inside the classroom or on offices on campus or off of campus as well. Adriana, you're off of mute, so I can kick it back to you. Unless Cassidy, if you want to jump in.
Oh, I didn't. Everyone else went first already, so I didn't know if
Take
y'all
it,
wanted
Cass.
me to
Yes,
go
Take
first
it.
this time. So I mentioned before the Emily K Center, which is really within walking distance of our campus. And this partnership and space in the Durham community assists K through 12 students by providing them with resources to supplement their K through 12 education. So tutoring services, supplemental math assistance. I've even worked alongside with them on the college application programming that they have and even some after school care. Also students, and I see a lot of students in the chat interested in like what does pre-med look like at Duke. So of course we have a lovely relationship with the Duke hospitals, which are right on our campus. And so you can do everything from maybe you're a Pratt students within our School of Engineering, and they have a hands-on class that works to solve real world problems with a specific client. So maybe your client ends up being Duke hospitals and Duke nursing and Duke doctors, right? We also have our pre-med students who are wanting experiences shadowing health professionals. And so maybe that's something that you're involved and engaged in. So we have a great relationship with the hospitals. And I really think that our undergraduate students just add to what care facilities we have and research even going into those hospitals. But happy to pass it back to Adriana now.
Yeah, no worries. We definitely wanted to hear from you, Cassidy. I will share that at Pomona, similarly, right, we have our Health Bridges program where students act as health advocates, working side by side with low-income families or those that have low English proficiency, and help them navigate the resources that they are eligible for and pursuing those. When it comes to partnership with a community, we're actually excited that in the last year we founded and opened the Pomona College Community Engagement Center in the city of Pomona. And that is a center that innovates and creates an inclusive space to provide educational opportunities at the heart of the city of Pomona. But even before that center existed, there was partnership with Uncommon Good, a local nonprofit. And there's two programs I want to highlight. One is the Music Mentors program, in which students connect with youth that are engaged with Uncommon Good to teach them free music lessons. And these are underserved community members. So really, again, if your passion is music, no matter, or health, whatever that might be, that there's a way to give back and share that knowledge and skill and talent with others in the community locally. The second is the Rooftop Garden Project. So Pomona students will partner with Uncommon Good and their Teen Green group, which aims to increase activism and awareness around environmental justice and sustainability. And very much in line, if they're already participating in our organic farm on campus, that they would find a way to take that off campus and connect with younger students who are seeing them as mentors and guides, who are walking the steps that they hope to aspire to step in when they're at college age. So I'll just share those for now.
Awesome. Thank you both. I will add, similarly to what Cassidy mentioned, we also have several partnerships that allow students to take advantage of internships in the local community. Those include working with the local district attorney for those that are interested in pre-law. We have 3 hospitals within a 5-mile radius of our campus. So they're shadowing health physicians and surgeons and other folks that are working in the healthcare fields. Our students are also working closely with our career center to ensure that they are able to translate some of these opportunities to their resumes. So figuring out exactly how that the work that they're doing connects to the professional skills that they're building, and finding ways to actually put it in a space that they can share with others, because they are doing very impactful work, but we also want it to work for them in a way. So this is something that we found that has been very helpful for those students. In addition to that, something that I want to make sure that I mention is civic engagement is such an integral component to our students' overall experience that in the last 4 years, we opened a dorm in downtown Waterville. And the main component of that student application is that they have to show that they have been engaged in civic engagement in prior years, and that they will continue to participate in civic engagement if they are living downtown. We felt that it was very important that if our students were living in a community, that they were giving back to that community meaningfully. And the downtown dorm is, I'd say, about a 5-minute drive, maybe about a 20 or so minute walk from campus, but it is nestled right in the heart of downtown Waterville. So that was a component that we felt was really, really important to ensure that our students weren't, for all better terms, not just taking up space, but giving back in some very meaningful ways.
I love to hear the way that all of your college campuses interact in spaces off campus, and like from living to an office. And so I think that's really cool. And Kevin, that was a great segue, thinking about kind of students and how they pursue their interest career-wise. So one question that I have is kind of what resources exist for students who may want to create their own community-focused project or initiative. So whether that's funds, a grant, or a scholarship. Yeah, wondering if you could speak to some of those resources. And let's see, now that you've all gone first, I don't know who to call on, but Kevin, I'll pass it to you.
Sounds good. Earlier, I mentioned the Colby Votes initiative. That was actually founded by a student. And at this point, I believe they initially had to do their own fundraising. But since the first year of that, and the students actually won a national award in 2020 for the gains in voter participation from Colby students and the surrounding community, that the president's office on our campus now funds that initiative. There are also opportunities for students to request funding for various projects like the coding club. We also have a seed library in which our students and others are cultivating various seeds prior to the planting season for families and those that are interested in making their own gardens, for them to have an assortment of seeds that they can choose from. Other funds, our students have the opportunity to work with our Halloran Lab for entrepreneurship to do something related to civic engagement through that space, and also request funds through various departments as well. One that I can think of is anthropology. We have a professor that has been working the last, I want to say 5 to 7 years on a project called the Maine Drug Policy Lab, to looking at all the different factors that would go into creating or adjusting the drug laws in the state of Maine. So doing research, connecting with different retreat centers, hospitals, and really investigating it in a way that would make an impact on the entire state and most of New England. And that's work that has been funded through various donors and other sources. But our students can join that research and or create their own projects as well.
I can go next. So we have a number of different programs and avenues for Duke students to really supplement their education. And so I hope just hearing about a few of these really helps you all, start off looking at some of those things and continuing to do your research at any of the schools that you're interested in. And so maybe a Duke student is interested in joining one of the 400 plus clubs we have on campus already available to students, or maybe you want to create your own, which is really easy to do as a Duke student. But the collaborative exists at the Duke Civic Engagement Office, and they work to assist students with providing project funding and finding development opportunities and offerings on our campus for any of the efforts that you might be interested in. So that is open to all of our students on campus who might have an interest in community-based collaborations.
And then at Pomona, the Draper Center really supports students as they and oversees several funding opportunities as they explore which projects they might join or initiate based on their own passions. And so 3 examples might be the Davis Project for Peace funding opportunity, which encourages youth to create and try out their own ideas for building peace. That is one that is looking for students who are designing their own grassroots project and implementing it during their summer break anywhere in the world. And so I see some questions in the chat about students who may be interested in political activism or who are inspired by the events on October 7th of last year. And so if there's not already an existing project, that this is the type of avenue you might pursue to create a project locally with other peers, not just at Pomona, but across the 5 Cs who are passionate about these same issues that you might be in. The second one is the Napier Initiative, which is funded for those, again, who are dedicated to pursuing peace, social justice, and environmental sustainability. That's the example, that funding opportunity that the student Sophie Rowe, who worked on the hunger and homelessness initiative I spoke of earlier, she was funded that, and that is 2 $12,000 scholarships that are given each term. The last one is the Strauss Foundation, which is for those students that are committed to public service and education, and it's an honor memorial of John Strauss, who demonstrated that lifelong commitment. That one is for a scholarship of about $15,000 that's given to 100 students annually. To no fewer than 14 students annually. And so again, regardless of the passion the student might have, whether it's a program that exists or not, there are these avenues with significant financial support. And I'll just highlight that this is possible at institutions like ours because there is perhaps a higher endowment, or there are higher amounts of donations than there might be at a state university or a public institution. Something to keep in mind as you continue to explore the partner colleges and compare them to other schools.
Hey, I had one more thing I wanted to add before I completely space and forget to mention it. During the admissions process, we actually select a cohort of students to receive a grant and different leadership opportunities as well as the grants can be used towards independent scholarship, internship, and various humanitarian projects. But these students are identified in the admissions process because of their academic achievements and their involvement in the community. So they come in with a cohort. They're able to engage meaningfully in building community, but also diving deeper into the social justice and civic engagement issues that they felt have been important to them, so they can continue projects that they were doing with their local communities and high schools, but also receive grants to kind of build on that as well. And I just wanted to ensure that I shared that opportunity for those that were in attendance. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for sharing. All of those answers just really make me want to go back to college and apply for that funding and pursue my passions. But yeah, it bears repeating what all three of them have shared, that at their college campuses, students are not only encouraged to get involved in their community and pursue individual passions, but that there's funding to support you to do that. So I think that's really important for students to hear, because it's just an incredible opportunity. So speaking of kind of the ways that each of your colleges can support students in their own, as they pursue their own passions, one of the ways that students can often gain valuable experience, whether that's through leadership or hands-on skill building, is by engaging in centers for community engagement. So what are the ways that the community engagement centers on your campuses prepare students for life after graduation? And Cassidy, I think I'll have you start on this one.
Okay, yeah, sure. So we have a career center that really helps students on campus focus on postgraduate opportunities, but our civic engagement office can also connect you with postgraduate programs, such as AmeriCorps programs. One example of this is the College Advising Corps, which I happened to participate in for two years after I graduated from college. And so the Advising Corps is great for Duke graduates who want to be engaged with increasing the number of low-income, first-generation college and underrepresented high school students who enter and complete higher education. You might also find different internship opportunities, but through the Civic Engagement Office, such as the Marianne Black Summer Internship Program, which allows students to work with the Durham youth who are attending different schools in the Durham community. So there are a number of hands-on opportunities post-graduation or even in your time at Duke that really sets you up to be ready to take on the world once you receive your Duke education.
And I'll say that for Pomona, obviously being out working with different communities than you may have in the past, right, who may be similar or dissimilar to you, our students have the opportunity to engage with those that are going to expand their ability to collaborate and connect with folks from all walks of life. It's really written into our history and part of our values and mission that students here would learn and then go out into the world and bear their added riches. That's the phrase that we use. So I think civic engagement really prepares them to think about their positioning in society and in terms of privilege and what they can do with what they have, and inspiring them to be community centered, to be collaborative in nature across partnerships and across different teams and types of people, whether it's right now faculty with curriculum or different funding opportunities, right? That they would be resourceful and use the knowledge and connections and resources to do something for the greater good of society. So that's really, I think, a quintessential aspect of being a Pomona student, and the way in which the students that are seeking the Draper Center really are growing, but because of the work the Draper Center does with faculty members, how that's being cultivated and inculcated into the curriculum for some of the courses that are offered as well for all students.
Awesome. I would include, in addition to what I mentioned earlier with our Career Center, working with students to translate some of those professional skills to their resumes, connections with alum, as well as I think to Adriana's point, that cultural competency piece that really allows you to work with a variety of individuals, regardless of the spaces that they're stepping into. Those students are prepared. They're building leadership skills. They're engaging with various stakeholders on campus and beyond, really preparing them for kind of jumping into whatever it is they do with 2 feet, feeling confident that they've been able to lead projects, to engage with VPs and CEOs of various organizations, and been able to kind of hold their own within those conversations, and feeling that they have a footing and a place that they can step into and be their true selves with all the additional pieces and components that they've been able to put together during their time on our campus in the classrooms, while also engaging in the community.
Awesome. That's great to hear about all of your schools. All right, I have one last prepared question, but just want to say thank you for sharing all of the many examples of the civic engagement and community engagement opportunities on all of your campuses. It's like overwhelming to hear all of them. There's so many to take advantage of. So that I hope that students listening are feeling excited about those. So I have one last question for you all, and then we'll transition to the audience Q&A portion of this webinar. So my last question is, one thing that is integral in the process of applying to colleges, as you all know, is the idea of college fit, or how well a college may meet a student's needs and priorities. And QuestBridge and our college partners like Pomona, Duke, and Colby all want students to thrive no matter where they end up. So my question is, what kind of student do you think would thrive at your institutions? Adriana, I'll have you start this off.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll actually just like echo what I said and add on. I think that students who are interested at Pomona and may enroll, they are going to be successful if they demonstrate this clear curiosity, whether it is for health, environmental sustainability, justice, activism, philosophy, policy, whatever that looks like for them, that they are passionate about learning that and using that to be intellectually generous and to do good and bear their added riches. Those I think are the combination, the curiosity, the passion, and how they see themselves in the world using that to give back is really what is a telltale sign of a student who's going to do well, both in the classroom and beyond at Pomona.
I will jump in and share that very similar. I think students that are willing to push their boundaries socially and academically, those that are willing to kind of challenge the norms, to step into spaces that may be a bit uncomfortable, and kind of leaning into that discomfort to discover more about themselves, but also contribute to the community as a whole. I think students that are willing to do things that are outside of their norm, challenge the norms within their immediate social spaces, but also on the campus community. Students that are not going to just accept that this is the way we've always done it, so we'll continue to do it that way, but kind of step into those spaces, bring their true selves, and also make change for all the right reasons.
And I'm happy to wrap us up here by saying that whenever we're reviewing applications and the students that we feel like are going to strive here, we're really looking for Duke students who are going to be community-minded, because we are a community-minded campus. So we're looking for students who are going to be kind classmates, teammates, roommates, right? And we're also looking for students who are globally minded. So in the traditional sense that you might think of, but also how can you be a global learner and a leader right here in Durham and on our campus as well.
Awesome. I love to hear how, yeah, community engagement is like baked into all of your answers. So yeah, that's great. All right, so we have many open questions. I see some of you have been answering them as as this webinar has been going on. So thank you for doing that. I'm gonna scope through some questions and kind of shout a few out and just, yeah, see who wants to take them. So one question, which kind of relates to, who's a student that would thrive at your institution or what kind of student would thrive, is a question from Rachel. What are your favorite examples of community service or collaboration initiatives that you've seen from high school applicants? So I think that's referring to within college applications. So wondering if anyone has any examples that come to mind or insight to share there.
I can start. I really, whenever I'm reading applications, I really like to see students who have taken upon themselves to figure out what they're passionate about and create their own initiatives, and whether that's through a program that you're already involved in or just creating something entirely new for whatever community it is that you're excited about. For example, I read the application of a student who started growing like vegetables at home because they realized they had so much land in their own backyard. And then they were able to provide like seed packages to people in the community, and eventually brought this initiative to their own school. And this was something that really came about during COVID, and having less access to some food that you would traditionally have and be able to get to. But yeah, so they really just grew this effort straight from a need that they saw, something that they were passionate about, and something that they were excited to bring and share with others.
Amazing.
I think for me, it may feel a little bit more status quo, but during the pandemic, students who were able to speak about perhaps knowing that, right, like in their community, the homeless population were unmasked. And so learning to sew and bringing together 5 students, building community in order to sew 100 masks and give that to the community that was most affected and vulnerable for COVID. And so for us in our reading process, it's on our website, but we're looking for, as one of many factors that a student might have, that they might be invested in their community or be network builders. And so you can see in this case, it's a student that brought others together and with limited resources found a solution to a problem. You don't have to cure cancer, though we would love for that to happen, right? You don't have to be doing something so grandiose in order for us to see the value in you believing in community, you believing in solving problems with limited resources. We start to envision what you might be able to do with that $14,000 scholarship, right? With 100 people behind you and faculty and staff rooting you on. And so don't get overwhelmed by all of the things that you could possibly do. Think about, what are you passionate about? Where could you see yourself making a difference, even if it is for 5, 10, 50 students or others around you?
One of the first things that came to mind was an organization of students started teaching middle school students science through cooking, and using different forms of cooking to introduce students to science experiments. And that was one that he had a passion for cooking. His siblings needed help in science courses, and he didn't really like being a tutor, so he found a creative way to kind of merge his passions while also giving back in a fairly meaningful way. And it made me kind of look into more the chemistry of cooking, is the way that he framed it. And it was something that he was really engaged with, and others at his school have actually continued doing for the local middle school.
Awesome. My college application was not nearly full of those cool examples, but that's great to hear. And all right, so I'm going to look for another question in here. And there are some questions that are kind of more general college application related. So now that we're here, we can answer some of those. I'm seeing many questions about test scores, and just how test scores are weighted in an application, or the process of deciding whether or not to submit test scores. So I'm wondering if you all have any advice to share. I'm sure those are questions you've received many times as well, about the process of deciding if a student wants to submit a test score or not.
I would first encourage all of these students who are asking about the different parts of the application process to, again, continue to do research, come to our information sessions. I know that most of us are going to have QuestBridge specific information sessions as well. So please, please, please attend those to learn more about our application processes. But I believe all of us test optional, just head nods. Yes, so all of us are test optional, which really means that you can apply to all of our institutions without your test scores. We all receive so much more information outside of just your test scores to use to learn about who you are. And that's just one of the strengths of having a holistic model to reviewing your applications. And if you are a student who is feeling like your test score isn't a strong reflection of your academics, then we have your transcripts, we have teacher letters of recommendation, we have your grades, right? We have, if your school does class ranks or GPAs, we have so much more to look at that will speak to you. And we don't want you all to have to worry about, taking all of those tests. There's so many things that are happening in your senior year that is exciting and that we know that might be stressful. And so use this as a time to really be reflective about whether or not you want to send us your scores. No penalty against you if you don't send us your scores. So yeah.
Great. Adriana, Kevin, anything to add, or you want me to move to the next question?
I'll echo everything. The only thing I'll add is that as applicants, you can ask schools hard-hitting questions, right? So they may be public about it, they may not. I will say for Pomona, for example, we've shared that since we've been test optional, about half of the applicants have included test scores and half did not. And so that really gives you a sense as you continue to ask questions about who's applying, who's being admitted. At least if they're able to share, it gives you a glimpse about like, wow, I can be a competitive and compelling applicant with my transcript, letters of recommendation, activities, and essays. I actually, if I choose not to submit those test scores, right, that you can still be admitted to a fantastic institution. But at the end of the day, the decision is yours, and we're going to advise that you work with your counselor to make the right decision for you. So I'll just add that in terms of self advocacy.
In addition to that, I'll add you won't get an answer if you're not asking the question. So I think ensuring that you are asking the college reps a test range or score range that might be competitive for an applicant or an admitted student, because we don't want students assuming that their test scores aren't good enough. And then at the end of the day, we're like, why wouldn't you have submitted that score? That definitely would have helped you in the process overall. So just asking those questions and making sure that you all are making informed decisions, leaning on your counselors and your family members to have those conversations and to make sure that you are doing what's best for you in the process.
Awesome. It's really great advice. And one thing I'll just add on the QuestBridge side of things is, like Cassidy said, all three of our college partners represented here today are test optional, but some of our schools now require test scores. So just make sure that you're checking the test requirements of the colleges that you are applying to and considering ranking for the National College Match. All right. I see one question that just came in, which is, are there programs or ways that a college supports students' mental health at your schools? So I want to see if anyone could share more about those opportunities.
I can go again. So we have a student wellness center. It's probably my favorite building on campus. And the wellness center has a number of different things everywhere from like our campus smiles, which is like the dentistry office, to other programs. Like we have a Zen garden there, which is nice. And we have different relaxation methods, so like aromatherapy and massage chairs, and it's just amazing, right? And so that's one way that you can practice mental health care on our campus. But we also have counseling services on our campus as well that's open to all students every semester, for anyone who would like to have those services, whether it be restorative care or preemptive care or anything like that. So yeah.
Similarly, we also have a mental health center on campus. It is part of our overall health center. Our students have access to their class deans. There's a counselor on call 24/7. We also have and I always get the name of this wrong. I believe it's Talkspace or Headspace, one or the other, but we we have a partnership with them that ensures students have access to at least 3 virtual conversations with a counselor every semester, in addition to those in-person conversations that they're able to have. Students are welcome to bring in any scripts and other medications they may need to ensure that those are getting filled and addressed while they are on campus, in addition to any other conversations, regularly scheduled conversations. They're working with our health center to ensure that there's a smooth transition in terms of providers and providing the various services that those students need.
And likewise, I'll echo counseling service and psychological services, but I will add that we have an Office of the Chaplain that's shared across the 5 seats. So if spirituality is something that you're passionate about, or you have a religion that you practice, there's a rabbi, priest, and more who work with students, both creating activities, but that you can meet with and have conversations with in addition to deans. The other thing I want to add is that as part of health services, if there is a documented or through Accessibility Resource Center, I'm sorry, if there's a documentation that you need an accommodation due to generalized anxiety disorder, ADHD, OCD, and there are many more on that list, that there is a process for you to receive the support on the accessibility resource side, so that your faculty members can give you the accommodations that are required to take exams or to receive note taking. It may even help in terms of housing arrangements if you have a medical condition that you require to be in a single unit residence hall, that those are conversations that you can have with different offices on campus, and that they work together to also allow that support to happen for you and your needs.
Great. Right, I see another question with lots of upvotes that is asking if a student didn't have the financial privilege or opportunities to attend summer programs on college campuses or purchase certain resources, will it decrease their chances of matching to a college through the National College Match? I see some people shaking their heads. I totally agree. Adriana, I saw you shaking your head, so I'm gonna let you answer that.
Maybe just the most strongly, but I think we all agree that it's not only your extracurriculars or special programs that you've been selected for that will demonstrate the qualities that we're looking for, right? So check out what we're each looking for, but what you can demonstrate from what's on your transcript as far as academic ability, what your teachers might say in your letters about how you're the student that is inclusive, that you have sought out additional books and brought that conversation, or news articles and brought that into the conversation in the classroom for the benefit of others, how you've engaged with activities that may also maybe you were limited because you take care of siblings or you have a longer commute, right? Making that known to us and making sure that we understand if you have job responsibilities or additional activities that you've done and demonstrated leadership in. It doesn't just look like a summer program at a college, right? And we, I think, are really well trained to see beyond just that and to see the context of your experience. But it helps if you can advocate for yourself and if your teachers are advocating for you as well, or your counselor.
Yeah, that's great advice. Cassidy, Kevin, anything to add on there?
Just that we look at all of our applications within the context that they're given to us. And so that means that we're never going to compare you to a student that was afforded completely different opportunities than you. We're really most interested in how you've spent your time, whatever that is, right? It could be students taking care of loved ones, taking care of a grandparent or younger siblings, or maybe you have a job to supplement some family income, right? And so if that's what you've done and that's what matters most to you, then that's what we value as well, because those are traits that you're going to be able to add and bring to our campus just as much as a student who did some fancy program at another university over the summer. So context matters to us, and that's what we're going to lean in on.
Yep. I will wrap that up by saying we value your individual journey and we want you to lean into that as much as possible.
Awesome. Yeah. And Cassidy, I feel like you hit a good point about like looking within a student's context there. I see some questions about students asking about, if there weren't a lot of AP course offerings at my school, will that affect me negatively? So just want to say that all of your National College Match applications are looked at within the context of your school. And that's really important, and a way to make sure that we have that information of what kind of courses were available at your school is to make sure that you upload a school profile as part of your application. We all strongly encourage it. I'm sure all three of you would agree with that as well. Just want to answer those questions as well. It is totally okay if you were not able to take a lot of AP classes due to what was available, and just make that known on your application, like what Adriana was saying. All right. I think we have time for one more question. So I'm going to search for one last one that we can all answer. Okay, I might be picking one of the harder questions because it's a broad question, but it's also one that has a lot of upvotes, which are, what are students like at your colleges? So I'm sure that's probably going to be a little tough to answer, but we'd love to hear what you guys might have to say, given that it seems like lots of students are curious about hearing about the students at your schools.
I'll just say at Pomona, they're curious, they're ambitious, they're collaborative, and community-centered, and really very bright and brilliant, but excited to connect first and learn together, work together during their time at Pomona.
Yeah, I think our students are very great at being engaged and also being community minded, but in an uplifting way that's supportive of one another. We are way more collaborative campus than we are competitive campus. And so students really do a great job at, being there for one another, whether it be through tutoring group sessions or it be cheering on your classmate at a sporting event. I often tell the story of having a colleague who during her time at Duke was dressed in all Duke blue and had her face painted and like the crazy hair and looked like they were going to some sort of sporting event, right? But they were actually going to the math competition in the library. And so that's just really fueling that community minded, that heavy school spirit that we have on campus, right? But in a way that bleeds into all areas across our institution.
Yeah, I'm going to reiterate. Our students are intellectually curious. They're engaged. They are collaborative in nature. They're aware of the fact that one person's accomplishments only benefits the overall community and doesn't take away from any of their experiences. So they're looking to support each other in quite a few different ways, through the research projects that they're doing, supporting them at their various club sports and other club outings and events as well. Our students are looking to take advantage of the outdoors based on our location. We're about an hour and a half away from Sugarloaf Mountain and about 45 minutes from the coast. So our students are those that are looking to take advantage of those outdoor opportunities as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. This is all that we have time for today. But everyone who is attending the webinar can please join me in thanking our panelists for taking the time to chat with us today and answer questions about all of your schools. So panelists, if you want to share your contact information for your admissions office in case any students on the call have questions later on they want to follow up on, please feel free to add those in the chat. And I think that's it. I'm just going to wait until you guys get your contact information in the chat. But yeah, thank you all for being here. And remember that you'll be able to view the recording of this webinar on our YouTube page tomorrow. And be sure to register for our next and final installment in this series for this year, which is athletics and academics. All right. I think you all got your contact information. Thank you all again so much. Appreciate it. And hope you all have a great night. Take care.